Good morning, everyone, and happy Sunday. Today we will be reading through the book of Job, and I will read out a few verses and summarize the rest, but in the description are the chapters and verses where I'm getting the summary from. So, the book of Job grapples with the big questions of human suffering. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why does God allow natural disasters to destroy homes and lives? Why did God make humans so frail and vulnerable to suffering? These are some pretty big questions that a man named Job grapples with. So the first verse in chapter 1 of the book of Job, which is in the Old Testament, so we know that the people who we are talking about are Israelites, and this is before Jesus. And the first verse in chapter 1 tells us that there was a man named Job. That man was honest, a person of absolute integrity. He feared God and avoided evil. Absolute integrity means that he was a person of complete honesty and truth. He was also extremely wealthy, with many children, and he lived a blessed life. God was very happy with Job. But then, the adversary, a being whose job is to discover and accuse people who are disloyal to God, complained that Job only loved good and avoided evil just because God blessed Job with a great family and a great life. The adversary said that pain and suffering would make Job stop trusting God. God disagreed with this, but he allowed Job to experience suffering as a way to test him. Job had not been disloyal to God, but God had Job face every kind of awful suffering. First, he lost his wealth, and then his children were killed in a storm. When he learned this, in chapter 1, verse 20, Job arose, tore his clothes, shaved his head, fell to the ground, and worshipped. He said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, naked I will return there. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken. Bless the Lord's name." In all this, Job didn't sin or blame God. So you might be familiar with this phrase, "the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh," meaning the Lord gives and the Lord takes. And we will learn more about what this means. So even though Job lost everything he had, he did not curse God. God has given him many blessings, but he has also taken away all of his blessings. Then the adversary continued to test him by giving him sores all over his body. When his wife told him to curse God, he says in chapter 2, verse 10, "You're talking like a foolish woman. Will we receive good from God, but not also receive bad?" In all this, Job didn't sin with his lips. So he's saying we receive blessings from God, so it's understandable that we also receive suffering from him as well. There's good and bad that God gives us. Then 3 of Job's friends come to console him, and with them, Job wonders why these terrible things happened to him. You see, the ancient Israelites understood blessings as reward for being good, and suffering as punishment for being bad. So by allowing bad things to happen to Job, who was a good person, God upsets the moral order. Job's friends remain confident in the moral order that they've always believed in. They insist that Job must have done something wrong to deserve such suffering. Job, however, is a person of absolute integrity. He rejects his friends' arguments and struggles to understand why all this has happened to him. He wonders, how can humans trust God if God allows bad things to happen to good people? How can humans trust God if God makes humans vulnerable to suffering and unpredictable disasters? He also wonders, how can humans trust God if God doesn't maintain a natural order that rewards good and punishes bad? One of Job's friends suggests in chapter 4, verse 6, Isn't your religion the source of your confidence, the integrity of your conduct, the source of your hope? He reminds Job that Job's religion is what makes him confident, it's what gives him integrity, and it is the source of hope. And that is something we should keep in mind as we go through hardships. Our faith and our love of humanity are our sources of hope and confidence. When God finally responds to Job's questions and anger at him, it is from a whirlwind, a symbol of chaotic elements of nature and the disaster that killed Job's children. God responds to Job's anger, hurt, and accusations by inviting Job to contemplate the mysteries of the natural world, the earth, the stars, the sea, the clouds, the many kinds of animals. Job's insight into this world is incredibly limited in the comparison with God's all-encompassing view. God reminds Job that God is not simply the God of humans. God is the creator of every wild, mysterious, inexplicable element of the universe. Job is comforted by God's response, not because his suffering is gone, but because he is able to understand his problems from a bigger perspective. God responds to all of Job's questioning of why this happened to him by telling Job that God is the only one who understands everything. He asked Job in chapter 38, verse 4, "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundations? Tell me if you know." That means God alone understands the whole universe and why things happened. He is the only one who was there at creation, at his creation, and so he is the only one who knows the order of the universe. And we are not on the same level as God, so we can't presume to know the order of the universe like God. At the end of Job's story, everything Job lost was restored. Although Job faced enormous hardships and life seemed terribly unfair, he never lost his love for God. He knew that God showered him with blessings, or if God took away everything he had, he would still bless God. The important thing to remember from Job's story is that God was present in his life and the lives of his friends. God is present in our lives today as well. You may have a list of things you would like God to fix in your life or in the lives of the people you know. We can't always know and see how God is working things out when bad things happen or when we want a problem fixed. Sometimes we have to wait a while. We might have to ask God help, and we might even have to ask for help from our friends. And at times, we don't get the fairy tale ending that we want. But no matter what the outcome is, God is always with us. We have the promise of God's love and presence no matter what problems we face. And I want you to remember that, especially now. The main message to take away from the story is that even though God is unpredictable, he is always with us. And like Job, you should not be afraid of telling God how you feel. God listened to Job's anger at him. It is also important to remember that you can always ask hard questions, but you might not always get answers, and that's okay. You can always wonder about life with God. So the story of Job is full of wondering. Job wonders about a lot of things, such as why God would allow such bad things to happen to him. Are there things you wonder about when you think about the world? What questions do you have for God? If something bad happened to you, would you question God's love for you? I hope you wouldn't, because, as I said, God gives and God takes, but no matter what, God loves us. Have you ever had something bad happen and then turned to God for comfort? Job is a human who suffered, so how can we help those around us who experience suffering? And when you are going through a hard time, it can be difficult to have faith. Job's story reminds us that it's okay to ask questions and even be angry with God on occasion. Think of a difficult experience you've had in life and talk to God about it using words or images. Write or draw your thoughts, feelings, and questions for God. And remember, you may not ever know all the answers to your questions, but you can still have a relationship with a God who loves you without end. And just as God allows the adversary to destroy Job's orderly life, so too God allows natural disasters, freak accidents, pandemics, and other random misfortunes that people experience. This isn't to punish us for being evil. It's just the way the world works sometimes. And even though we suffer, and that suffering is not nice or fun, and it can even be scary, we know that God is with us and loves us always, and that at the end of every storm is a rainbow. I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday, and I will see you in another video. The peace of the Lord be always with you.